Okay, it appears we are live. The resolution's not working. So I'm gonna try and figure that out. In the meantime, welcome to my live stream. Tonight we're gonna be covering New Hampshire. Yep, it's running. So, we're gonna start in just a second, actually. Oh, but it has the wrong tag. I will fix that. I'm not sure. Okay. Yep. Okay, good. Our stream health is working. We're officially on. Welcome to primary season. Here's an official map right now of the delegate count. Pete Buttigieg narrowly leads. On the Democratic side, I didn't bother to do one for the Republican side because unless Bill Weld really picks up some delegates in New Hampshire, let's be honest, it's going to be a one-way race. Trump got 97% in the Iowa Republican caucus. The Democratic one, however, was very competitive. There's one delegate that has yet to be awarded from Iowa on the Democratic side. But fortunately, Iowa did give us some information that's going to be very useful during the New Hampshire primaries. So what happened is sort of almost contrary to a lot of what happened in 2016 is that Buttigieg, Biden, the only counties Biden won in Iowa, he really underperformed. The only counties he won were more rural and more elderly counties because Biden also does well, at least in polling among black voters, which are nearly non-existent in Iowa. And he was able to run up the margins in a few really rural counties. It was, however, Pete Buttigieg who really showed off the sort of trend that we're seeing here. And Pete Buttigieg, his margin came almost entirely. He won nearly every county in Iowa. I think it's something like 35 to 40 counties out of the 50 or 60. And so a lot of those, he didn't win Des Moines, but he won the very big suburbs of Des Moines, and they gave him a massive lead. Uh, Ultimately, though, it was pretty drawn out. Sanders did win the popular vote in Iowa, but since rural delegates, they have this weird state delegate thing, and rural delegates are weighted much more heavily in this process. So that's why Biden was able to get only 13% of the vote, but 15% of state delegate equivalents, and so on and so forth. And now we're covering New Hampshire. The story, at least so far, appears to be sort of more of the same. Sanders leads in Dover by quite a bit so far. He also leads in Concord quite considerably. It's going to be really Manchester, though. If he can win Nashua, Amy Klobuchar had a huge rally just recently here. More than 1,000 people showed up in Nashua. And, I mean, I'd imagine that. Yeah. So, a lot of the Sanders strongholds, if you will, coming in right now. Pete Buttigieg, surprisingly, Amy Klobuchar is currently outpacing Elizabeth Warren by about 6 percentage points. Biden's really getting crushed right now. He's in the high single digits, and that's an abysmal performance. I don't think anyone really thought he would do this badly, although there were obviously low expectations. Yang, Tulsi, Steyer sort of hanging at the bottom of the pack. Other than that, yeah, so Sanders is it looks like Sanders is going to probably win. The forecast has him favored to win. He's been leading in most New Hampshire polls. Yeah, I mean, so it's looking good for Sanders so far. However, Klobuchar She did win these two rural precincts, and while that would ordinarily be pretty insignificant, it shows that she's showing a lot of strength in rural areas. Uh, she's not leading in, however, in these slightly larger precincts. Or maybe they aren't. No, they are slightly larger, as in like 50 people as opposed to 5. Yeah, but Sanders is winning 4 townships. Amy Klobuchar is winning 2, these two, including Millfield, which is one of the first to vote. But the first to vote, which is Dixville, believe it or not, Mike Bloomberg is not even on the ballot here in New Hampshire. He never visited. He won this town, and it was sort of a nice PR thing to be able to win the first town in New Hampshire, even though you're not on the ballot. Apparently, Mike Bloomberg, he called up these voters personally and talked to them, and I guess he was able to sway their votes. So he's winning that. He won that township. Probably it's gonna be the only one he wins. I don't imagine he'd get really substantial votes anywhere else. It is worth noting, there are a few townships that do not have polling places. I guess because there just aren't really any registered Democrats around there. But yeah, like I said, I expect Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar. Whether Buttigieg can win sort of the lame excuse for suburbs that all these cities, if you can call them that, have, that's going to be the question, because New Hampshire doesn't really have suburbs in a conventional sense. It's sort of, the towns are more like suburbs, and then everything else is just sort of the middle of nowhere. Yep, so that's what we're looking at. Sanders is in the lead by about 7 points last time we checked. Now it's about 6 points. I mean, it's gotten a little bit closer, but really not substantially. And we'll give you a look at some of our graphics soon enough once they're updated with the vote counts. We'll also give you an idea of where the race is heading. Because that's certainly gonna be able to we're gonna be able to get a better prediction of what it looks like it's gonna happen rather, as the primaries progress. Yeah. So as they just mentioned in the New York Times comment section right over here, I don't know if you can read it, but it's that Bernie Sanders is underperforming in older and rural areas. Well, the Klobusurge, as they called it, Amy Klobuchar is placing 5th. She's close to 20%. If she holds up a margin like this, it'll be a real boost for her campaign. She'll also be able to pick up some delegates, and so that will really be helpful for her. And we're just gonna take a quick look. It's 7% reporting right now, so still definitely too early to tell who's gonna win here. It looks like it's gonna be one of the top 3. I don't see Warren pulling off a win. And with these really abysmal early numbers, I can't see Biden pulling off a win. We're not going to talk about Steyer, Yang, or Gabbard. I can see Yang and Gabbard are probably going to drop out after New Hampshire because Yang just laid off about 90% of his staff. And Gabbard is betting on sort of a win, or at least a decent performance in New Hampshire to sort of kickstart her campaign, and what we're seeing here is really not that. She is 7th or 8th. Same with Yang. Neither of them have cracked 3% yet. Steyer is going to probably stay in the race because he's betting on South Carolina and Nevada, where polling does indicate that he's a lot stronger. He's placing 2nd in a lot of South Carolina polls. Yeah, Klobuchar's closing on Buttigieg. Sanders' lead has been decreasing thus far. However, he is still leading in Concord. He's leading in Dover. He's probably going to lead in Manchester as well, and that will really be a huge boost for him. Again, Klobuchar could win Nashua, but that would sort of be an anecdotal assumption because crowd size does not equal victory, because I remember Obama was able to pull a pretty decent crowd size, and I believe it was Idaho in '08 during the general election campaign. But he didn't get close to winning Idaho at all, not even within 20 points. So that's not a good indicator. But what is a good indicator of what's going to happen is, again, look at the breakdown. Sanders is leading in a few rural counties, but what we've seen is Klobuchar, her strength comes from rural counties thus far. We're just going to ignore that Mike Bloomberg precinct, because that's a complete outlier, and also only 5 people live there. I mean, it would be crazy to make the assumption that is sort of showing what's going to happen, because Mike Bloomberg, at best, he will get half a percentage point in New Hampshire, at the very best, and that's saying something, because he's put absolutely no effort into New Hampshire. Same with Iowa. Iowa, he got, I believe, less than 1% in the first round, and he didn't get like a single vote in the second round. But if Biden doesn't do well here, it wouldn't be a problem if he placed like 3rd or 4th, right? Well, it would be a problem, but it wouldn't be like awful. It would not be like catastrophic for his campaign. He is 5th right now, and he's not even in the double digits, which is like the worst combination you can have for a candidate who wants to be considered a front runner. And it's going to be really hard for Biden to have a path forward if he keeps up this margin. It's going to be just very, very difficult. And I think Biden is still going to win South Carolina, however. Mostly because Bloomberg is cutting into his lead significantly with black voters. However, Mike Bloomberg is not on the ballot in South Carolina. We're just going to do a quick refresh. Mike Bloomberg is not on the ballot in South Carolina. Therefore, he cannot draw into former Vice President Biden's lead among black voters there. Mostly because, well, first of all, Steyer's already doing that a little bit, but not enough. But because Bloomberg is not on the ballot, there's no really other moderate who performs well among voters of color, specifically African American voters, who would really be able to threaten Biden in South Carolina. However, of some Super Tuesday states that Biden really needs to win, polls came out, Mike Bloomberg is leading in the Arkansas primary by maybe like a percentage point. And that's because of black voters. Black voters make up 60% of voters in South Carolina, which I believe is the 3rd most. And I could be wrong, but I think the only states that are more are Alabama and Louisiana, at least for the Democratic electorate, not overall. And so, okay. We're going to take a look at this. The key states. The toss-ups are Wisconsin, Texas, Maine, New Jersey, New Mexico, Nevada, and Arizona. These are the states that we sort of have on our watch list. And to see how they go will sort of be reflective of the contest as a whole. We initially had Biden favored in Nevada and Texas, but after his poor Iowa performance and his probably poor New Hampshire performance, that's sort of up in the air. We also haven't had any polling of Nevada in quite a long time, and polling when it was occurring was quite lax. New Hampshire, however, that's the state we're doing tonight, and we believe that Sanders is favored in that state. By how much is to be determined. Right now, he's leading by approximately 5 percentage points, and if he were to win by 5 percentage points, I mean, sure, he was hoping for a 10, 12-point win. Some polls had him there. But, I mean, a win is a win, and it would build on momentum. And maybe if Buttigieg gets it really close, he'll be able to keep momentum, but it will be difficult for Buttigieg to have a path towards the nomination if he does not win New Hampshire. Because unless he's able to find some way to connect with African-American voters, the way Tom Steyer, say, or Tom Steyer, he's the best example of that, who sort of went from 2% to 20% in South Carolina. Unless Buttigieg can do that, he has no path to the nomination. Same with Klobuchar. she has to either win or place second, as in a very close second to have even a shot. Even then, I can't really see her getting the nomination. All right, so we're gonna move on. The New Hampshire Primary 2020. Delegates at stake was wrong, but the delegate count right here is correct. Buttigieg currently leads in delegate count with 13 delegates. Sanders has 12, Warren has 8, Biden 6, and Klobuchar 1. The preliminary, so superdelegates, they are allowed to vote at the convention, which is where the nominee is decided, but only if there's only if a certain candidate cannot get the required amount of delegates to secure the nomination. And with that becoming more likely, especially if Buttigieg, or Klobuchar for that matter, win New Hampshire, the chance of a contested convention where no candidate has a clear majority skyrockets. And so that's why it matters. Biden leads the superdelegate count quite considerably, contrasting with his actual delegate count. He only has 6 actual delegates. He has 59 unpledged superdelegates. Superdelegates in the second round can vote for whoever they want. Warren has 19 unpledged superdelegates. Bernie Sanders has 19, Buttigieg has 10, and Mike Bloomberg has 8. The areas to watch is Manchester, Nashua, and Concord. Probably going to run up the Sanders count. We're looking at Amy Klobuchar in Nashua, because if she can win there, then she might have a chance at winning overall, especially if she performs well in those rural, more whiter, well, it's all white in New Hampshire, but the older, apparently more moderate, more rural counties up north. Will endorsements help? Pete Buttigieg was endorsed by one of 2 Congress people from New Hampshire, Ann Custer from the 2nd District. If Buttigieg performs there well, that will mean that her endorsement was really paying off. In addition, lots of state officials in New Hampshire have endorsed Biden recently, including the Senate president, as in the state Senate president. So, I mean, it doesn't look like that's helping him right now, but we'll see. And it's the southern counties. It's going to be Nashua, Manchester, Concord, all those sort of cities, quote unquote, if you can call them that. They will be running up the margin in New Hampshire. What Sanders was able to do in Iowa is he was able to win Des Moines. He was able to win Cedar Rapids. He was win pretty much all the cities minus 1 in the East, which names I can't remember. That Buttigieg won by about 6 points. But again, Buttigieg, the more moderate candidate, his strength came almost completely from rural areas. The only counties that Biden and Klobuchar won were in rural areas. Klobuchar specifically, who has been seeing her campaign ads since she was running for Senate because they're so close to Minnesota. She won a lot of those counties. Biden, despite doing awfully in Iowa, won some rural counties by double digits. And so that's going to be really, that's going to determine how well moderate candidates do, especially in these states where their bases are less diverse, especially for Biden, and more old and white. And so we're going to move on from there. Final race ratings. Iowa was a toss-up. We're treating it like a Sanders victory, although Buttigieg technically got a delegate majority. Sanders won both rounds of the popular vote. New Hampshire, lean Sanders. South Carolina is likely Biden. There's only been 2 polls since Iowa of South Carolina. One had Biden up 9, the other had Biden up 18. The plus 18 one would mean that it would still be in the safe Biden column. However, especially if Biden places 5th in New Hampshire, I can see him maybe even losing to someone like Steyer or having his margin cut down a lot, maybe to 6 points or so, 6, 7, 8, 9 points. It is worth noting the pollster that had him at only leading by 9 points is a pollster that is often oversampled pro-Sanders demographics. During the time of the Biden surge, he was leading by 20, 25 points in a lot of state polls, and this one had him only leading by 5 at that time. So it is also not a high-rated pollster on 538. I believe it has like a C or D. So, but when there's that few pollsters, you have to consider everyone. Like Iowa, we had a multitude of polls coming out, and you could sort of cherry pick from them, take the best ones, Monmouth, Fox News, all of those. But this you sort of have to take all the cruddy local ones, or else you're not going to be able to figure out what's going on. Alright, so we're moving on. New Hampshire polls closed slightly about 8 minutes ago, so we have our New Hampshire poll closings. New Hampshire Primary 2020. And we now have a key race alert, and that is that Donald Trump is the projected winner of the New Hampshire Republican primary. He will gain 3 delegates, plus the equivalent amount of delegates that he gains. I believe it's based off a popular vote for the Republicans. We have not gotten any results thus far from the Republican primary. However, we will be reporting them quite shortly. And we have one race that's too close to call, and that is the New Hampshire Democratic primary. It says nobody leads yet. However, Sanders currently holds the lead by about 6 points, 5.4 percentage points to be exact. And that is because Sanders thus far has been doing well in the townships around Dover, which are starting to come in. Buttigieg second. He's won a precinct sort of in the middle of nowhere. He only won it by less than half a percentage point, 0.4. Klobuchar won 2 townships in the northern part of the state. Really tiny townships. One of which she won by 11 points, the other which she won by 20 points. But again, these townships literally have 5 people. So how much they matter is sort of not at all, actually. Amy Klobuchar, who, by the way, just hit 20% of the vote. She's third. Warren is fourth with about 12% of the vote, and Biden has recovered slightly, but is still hanging around 8% of the vote. And that's all we have right now. However, we're going to take a look at the live by-county map so we can have a good idea of what exactly is going on. As you can see, Andrew Yang just passed Tom Steyer, and it doesn't really matter because they're all going to probably lose pretty overwhelmingly. But as you can see here, thus far, Sanders has won most of the townships that have been reporting. About 10% in right now, it looks like. Also, look at the New Hampshire Republican primary. Not so great for Bill Weld. He is at around 10% of the vote. Which I guess is a decent enough showing for someone who just got 1% in Iowa. That's a times 10 multiplication. But still, it is not an ideal performance. And whether he will get any delegates, well, he will probably get delegates. Whether they will be awarded to him or not remains to be seen. Again, Bill Weld, the Republicans have a weird rule. You have to get a plurality in at least 5 states to be rewarded delegates at the convention. So even though he got a delegate in Iowa, he'll probably get a few delegates here. He's not going to be getting any of those delegates at the Republican National Convention. Yeah, Manchester, I guess, just maybe not for the Democrats. No. So, Manchester and Nashua, not a single precinct has reported yet. Nashua, in particular, like I said, we're going to see if Amy Klobuchar can really break out there. Because if she can, then that's going to sort of shake up the contest. Maybe she could pull into the lead. I wouldn't rule it out completely. It's looking really bad for Biden right now, though. Yeah, so if Klobuchar can do very well in Nashua, I think she's second in Concord right now. If she can do well in Nashua, maybe win Manchester or get close, she could win the primary. However, it does look like Bernie Sanders is probably going to win the New Hampshire primary. Yeah, he leads by about 5% right now, which is pretty consistent with what polls have been saying so far. And we just had, yeah, We got votes from Keene, wherever that is. Probably find it. There's so few precincts. Is it really not anywhere around here? Oh, there it is. That's Keene. Keene is sort of like a decent-ish sized town, New Hampshire. It's one of those places that Bernie Sanders has to win. In order to, it's just gonna hold up his margin because a lot of these townships are just so small. That the ones that have more than 1,000 voters are really gonna matter in a contest like this. That's just so overwhelmingly competitive. And so what we're also looking at right now is, can Pete Buttigieg or Amy Klobuchar pull off wins in more of these northern counties? Right now, it looks like Sanders is doing very well in the South. Pete Buttigieg did, like I said, win this precinct, it appears. But let's look at the size of the lead. I mean, it's almost non-existent. This place is so small. These areas over here, like I said, the excuse for suburbs that Dover has, they're sort of, they're helping Sanders right now. Buttigieg, he's more competitive than he was in Dover against Sanders. Dover, Sanders won, or at least is winning by about 15 percentage points now. The closest of these sort of suburbs is the closest of these suburbs is Portsmouth, as you can see right here. Sanders leads by about 3 percentage points. Klobuchar is right on Buttigieg's tail, basically. Yeah, and Amy Klobuchar, she's really closing in on Bernie Sanders in Concord. He leads by about 4 points still. But she is. Oh, never mind. All the precincts have been reported, I guess, so maybe she's not. But the fact that she placed second in Concord is really good news for her campaign. In Warren, wherever that might be, Sanders, I guess, probably has won because there's only a single precinct in the entire township. Again, individual votes matter. In a primary like this, where it just can be so close. It looks like the stream health is decent, which is good. If we are able to get new recording software, we will most certainly do so. Also new graphics, because Google Slides is great, but doesn't always do the trick. And so yeah, so Donald Trump is the projected winner of the New Hampshire Republican primary. It was not a necessarily surprising win, but if he's able to get to around 90%, that will essentially mean that his opponents will be screwed. Because New Hampshire is the state that Bill Weld really says, like, if I win here, all bets are off. He's not going to win here. We've already projected Donald Trump the winner. But a strong performance in New Hampshire could mean that his campaign would be able to survive for a bit longer. The only state where I can see Bill Weld winning or coming close to a win would be his home state of Massachusetts. Even there, polling hasn't indicated he'd get more than 30% of the vote. And again, he could not get the delegates seated at the convention unless he gets a plurality in at least 5 states. That's not happening. Unless territorial primaries also apply to that, in which case, if he's able to win 5 territorial primaries, he'd get his delegates seated. And by territorial primaries, I'm meaning American Samoa, Guam, Northern Mariana Islands, all those great places. Very little delegate yield. I think it's like 6 for each of them respectively. But it's delegates are delegates, and when you're basically a protest candidate against Trump and nothing more, that's what really matters. And so right now we're looking at this really interesting contest that's shaping up, at least on the Democratic side. And we're going to take a closer look at that now. So Sanders' lead has sort of been like crawling up by a few decimal points, pretty much. Mostly, I guess, because a lot of these rural counties are coming in well thus far for Sanders. Um, Amy Klobuchar has had a strong showing in Concord. Uh, Dover, it's barely in yet. It looks like Sanders is probably going to win there. He's leading by 15% with about a third of precincts reporting. That's sort of a hard margin to overcome unless they really, either Pete, Amy, or Warren can really, really do well in those remaining 4 precincts, which is probably not going to happen. It would be sort of unprecedented. But the Democratic race is still quite interesting. And I'm still blown away that Mike Bloomberg was able to sort of arrange this, basically nothing more than a PR stunt, where he was able to win this township. Again, only 5 people voted, but it's still, like, pretty cool that he was able to do that. And now that I've mentioned it, Pete Buttigieg leads by a single percentage point in the Dalton Township. Again, Biden really doing poorly. I thought that maybe we were getting initial results. Biden had 6%. I thought maybe that would change. It's not changing. 12% of precincts reporting. Biden has less than 8% of the vote. And Klobuchar's numbers just took a little bit of a hit. And Sanders' lead just grew by a half a percentage point, maybe, to about 6%. Yeah. Yeah, so what it's looking up right now, it's shaping up to be pretty decent night for Buttigieg, a very good night for Klobuchar, a good night for Sanders, because this is sort of, it's his contest to lose. And with 12% reporting, Bernie Sanders leads by about 6% of the vote in the great state of New Hampshire. So again, we are going to be looking at Nashua and Manchester, because if Klobuchar is able to get a surprise at Nashua or Manchester, if not both, or Buttigieg for that matter, if he's able to do that, that could shake up the race. All right, Manchester is by far the biggest city in New Hampshire. It's actually not that big, but it's still the biggest in New Hampshire, which is a very small and rural state. And in a state that's small and rural, even the tiny, tiny cities, they matter. And that what we're going to be seeing is that if Klobuchar is able to win Nashua, especially by a somewhat comfortable-ish margin, then she might be able to pass Buttigieg. Probably not pass Sanders, but it is remotely possible. I'm going to see if I can find the forecast the New York Times has. Yeah. Klobuchar's odds are up from 2% earlier to 4%. Sanders' odds have gone down slightly from 68% to 64% now. And Buttigieg has also climbed slightly from 28% to 29%. However, Sanders is still pretty favored. He did win New Hampshire in 2016 by double digits, but with a split race, and I guess he has been unable to expand his base. However, so a lot of Democratic strategists were saying that Bernie Sanders, unable to expand his base, would mean that he would lose. However, there's so much vote splitting at this point among the moderate candidates, especially you saw in Iowa, where Buttigieg, Klobuchar, and Biden collectively got 56% of the vote, right? But it was split 3 ways, and the it was actually the same with the progressive vote, although it's shaping up to be less so that way in New Hampshire, where Sanders had like 20% and Warren had like 16%, and she was able to sort of draw a lot of votes away from Sanders, make the competition closer for him. But there's three viable moderate candidates. There's about to be four when Bloomberg sort of emerges after all these states, the early states, have stopped coming in. And I mean, it will be a four-way race. The moderate vote will be split quite heavily, including the African American vote, and that will be sort of very bad for especially Joe Biden, and it will be very good for Sanders, because especially if he can get Warren out early in the race, then he'll have a considerable lead among progressive voters, especially young, white, and better off individuals. And so right now we're also going to take a quick peek here. Bill Weld, it is worth noting, has not won a single township or actually gotten even close, it looks like, in any townships. The closest thus far appears to be Dover, where he got, or maybe it's Keene, where, oh no, it's this one. He got 77% of the vote here. Wait. Okay, so yes, it is actually Lebanon, New Hampshire, where Bill Weld is running the best margin. Even there, he's only getting 13% of the vote. And, I mean, he's just getting crushed. Joe Walsh, he dropped out yesterday. He's pulling about 1% of the vote. And already, they have a lot of precincts reporting. And it doesn't look like Bill Weld is going to have that upset he was hoping for. Although Trump's margin has gone down slightly over the last 20 minutes, he still has 82% of the vote. I mean, that's like a blowout win. New York Times has called it for Donald Trump also, which means he's going to win. We have called it for Trump, and at this point, I mean, 82% of the vote, you can't really overcome that, especially when all those votes are mostly coming from the bigger cities in New Hampshire, minus Nashua. However, we're going to quickly take a look back here. Buttigieg picked up another precinct. Sanders picked up a few scattered across rural areas. Some of these precincts, he actually, he's winning quite overwhelmingly. This one, he won by 3 votes. Razor thin margin. And again, if Klobuchar or Buttigieg can win Nashua, I think more likely Klobuchar to win Nashua, then that's going to be a big deal. I mean, it will really shake things up. Especially if Klobuchar can place second in New Hampshire, she will have a real shot at least advancing her campaign. Whether she can get a delegate majority is pretty doubtful. Sanders has about a 48% chance right now of getting a delegate majority. The remaining 52%, about 25% of a contested convention, and Biden has something like a 16% chance. Mike Bloomberg has like a 3% chance, and Pete Buttigieg has like a 5% chance. Amy Klobuchar has, like, according to 538, that might change after tonight, but according to 538, Amy Klobuchar has like a 0.1% of a chance to win a delegate majority. But yeah. Oh no, Andrew Yang just dropped out. He's like my favorite. Okay, that's really sad. I'm upset to hear that. But he is having a lackluster performance right now. He hoped, I guess, probably, in earlier polls, out of those 2 rural towns up north, he was 4th. He had around 11%, and he's only slid from there. Understandably so, because I guess he's not performing as well in the cities, where up there you can get 1 vote, and you're instantly guaranteed a double-digit percentage. But yeah, Biden is really getting blown out of the water here in New Hampshire. And I don't think his campaign will be able to survive this at this point. Bloomberg's already cannibalized a lot of his lead in national polls. Sanders now leads in national polls, not because, well, Sanders has not necessarily, he has gained, but he hasn't actually gained that many percentage points. He's sort of stagnated around where he usually is, occasionally dipping and rising, dipping and rising. He's at the same place where he started. The problem is that Biden has been falling, and Bloomberg has been steadily rising. He just passed Warren in the average, and he could pass Biden because Biden's been in a nosedive in his national numbers. Buttigieg and Klobuchar are also surging in national polls. Klobuchar less so, but if she gets second in New Hampshire, maybe that will be different. And we just had another precinct come in. Bethlehem. Sanders won here. We are not exactly seeing the same trends that we are seeing in Iowa. Maybe because the townships are much smaller. I guess that could be sort of it. We'll have to look at Nevada because, I'd imagine if Joe Biden is still a relevant candidate by that time, I'd imagine that he'd probably win Las Vegas. Or maybe not, because he'd win probably where if there is a rural minority population of Democrats anywhere in Nevada, he would win there. I think either Biden or Sanders would probably win Las Vegas. I think Sanders would probably win Carson City, which is up north and it's whiter than Las Vegas. Las Vegas is somewhat diverse. On the other hand, New Hampshire and Iowa are more than 90% white, which is sort of ironic when the Democratic Party, they tout their diversity as their greatest strength, but their first two states in the country are more than 90% white, and also one of them voted for Trump by 9 points, and is probably not going to return to the Democrats in 2020. Nevada, however, is a crucial swing state that's more diverse. It's trending blue. South Carolina, one could argue, is trending blue. It also has a overwhelmingly minority, 60% African American voter base. So not New Hampshire. Nevada would probably be the most representative of the United States as a whole, simply because it sort of reflects the national demographics, and that's what you want in a first-in-the-nation primary, not 90% white and lots of older people, especially in Iowa, which has a more aged population. I'm curious to know, however, where the college campus is here in New Hampshire, because wherever they are, Sanders is definitely winning them by like 15, 20 points. I wouldn't be surprised. There's probably one in Keene somewhere that's really driving up the margin for Sanders. Buttigieg, he's sort of like meandered through these few precincts. He's not pulling off huge wins anywhere right now. The biggest lead he has in any of these precincts is here, where he leads by about... it's here, where he leads by about 8 points. That is not a spectacular margin for your best county, as opposed to Sanders, who's winning Keene by 15 points. He's winning this... Oh, that's not Sanders. There's a rural county that... Oh, right here. He's winning Bethlehem by 20 points. And so the reason that Buttigieg is doing well, not because he's won these few precincts, it's because he has done well in Concord, at least well enough. He placed a decent second-ish in Dover. Not really, because he lost by 15 points. He got second in the suburbs of Dover, or the quote-unquote suburbs. And, at this point, I'd say Sanders is pretty overwhelmingly favored, especially if he does keep his margin. And if he loses Manchester, maybe it's a different story, okay? But if he wins Manchester, it's... Klobuchar would have to do very, very well in elsewhere to pull off a win. Same with Buttigieg. And we're currently looking 16% of precincts reporting. Biden is still really struggling. Wow. He did not even do this badly in Iowa. He got 15% of the first round in Iowa. If you think that is bad, look at his numbers now. He expected a gut punch in New Hampshire, but this is like someone picked him up and threw his entire campaign. You know, it's just like someone threw him into a lake. And yeah, because he's struggling with older voters, it would appear. There's a tied precinct here between Sanders and Buttigieg. Let's look here. Again, Trump is still leading overwhelmingly. He got 82% of the vote in Concord. He has 90% thus far in Manchester. And he got 78% in Dover. I mean, Bill Weld is getting blown out of the water. It is still, however, a positive compared to his Iowa performance, where Bill Weld was sort of just loitering in the low or single digits. Yes. Hello all. Someone has been commenting with my YouTube account, which is sort of weird because it's probably okay. I'll have to figure that out. Who exactly is doing that? But hello all. I've thought about advertising my live stream so it would get more views, but I don't know. Maybe it's something I would consider, especially on Super Tuesday. The ones like this I feel are kind of more boring because I'm sort of just sitting around talking about whatever I can think about. Which I guess, since nothing interesting has happened yet, we're gonna wait till Nashua has come in to look at the results again. Sanders leads by about 6. Let's look at the primary map. Alright, so in this hypothetical, let us say that Bernie Sanders wins New Hampshire. I'm not going to try and portion the delegates because that would... they do it really weirdly with like some really, really weird math. I'm not going to even bother and try with that. But I think Sanders is also favored at this point, slightly so, to win Nevada. Especially because Biden's really been lagging behind. With this, catastrophic 5th place finish. Considering that Amy Klobuchar has nearly 3 times as many votes as you, that is a problem for a candidate who used to be considered the front runner. Actually, a few days ago, was widely considered the sort of unsteady front runner. And Biden. It's going to be friendlier turf in Nevada, but it's still not going to be friendly turf. And the only state, I'd say, of the early 4, Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina, I'd say he would still be favored, even after this like horrible loss in New Hampshire. He would be still favored in the state of South Carolina, right over here. I'd also imagine that his 30-point leads in Florida and Missouri might be a bit much to overcome. Pennsylvania, however, I can see Sanders winning it now. Biden, another state, unless he drops out by the time the primary rolls around, he will almost certainly win Delaware. I can see Mike Bloomberg appealing to lots of sort of, white-collar, better off voters, white voters in Connecticut. That was the combination of his strong standing among African American voters in places like Hartford and Bridgeport will really help him. He'll probably win Connecticut, Mike Bloomberg. Sanders will obviously win Vermont. New Jersey is one of our toss-up states. I'd say Sanders could be very well favored after this rolls around, unless maybe it could be different because Bloomberg sort of has a regional advantage here. He can drop like $3 billion on the presidential race. It won't make a dent in his net worth. Who will win Texas? That's a very good question. Biden was leading by like 18 points in some polls and by like 2 in other polls. Polling for Texas has been sparse and very inconsistent. So I can see, especially if Biden does very poorly, I can see either Sanders or Bloomberg winning Texas. Bloomberg wins Texas, that will be huge for his campaign. First of all, it will astronomically increase the chances for both him to have a delegate majority and to have a contested convention. Bloomberg, like I said, recently polled him leading in Arkansas especially if Biden really doesn't do well in the upcoming primaries. I can see Bloomberg expanding his margin, winning Arkansas pretty considerably. Uh, Biden would probably still win Alabama, North Carolina, and Louisiana. Probably Mississippi too, because they are more. Arkansas, the reason that Biden is. The reason that Bloomberg is cutting in there is that he's also, I believe, probably doing well among rural white voters who make up. Arkansas, the primary is about 30% or 40% African American for the Democrats, which is not nearly as much as in the 60s or 70s, states like South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana, not to mention also Georgia. Um, Probably, I don't know who would win Kentucky or West Virginia, because Bernie was popular among the coal miners in 16, but with the whole Green New Deal, it's probably going to be a bit of a turnoff. Uh, Honestly, I could have seen Yang doing well in West Virginia if he stuck around. Maybe not, though, because the whole momentum thing probably would have killed him after getting like 2% in every primary. Sanders is probably going to win California. It is a toss up, but I think he'd be probably like slightly favored. And New York, that's another huge toss up. A recent poll, I still haven't been able to find it, but according to I think CNN or MSNBC, there was a recent poll had Bloomberg and Sanders, or yeah, I'd imagine it would be Bloomberg and Sanders tied in New York. New York, the recent match, it has 224 delegates. Florida has 219. Texas has 228. And California has 416. If any candidate can win a comfortable margin, as in 5 points or more, in any of these states, that's going to be really good for them. Because these states have huge delegate yields. Other states with large delegate yields, like Virginia, 99 delegates, Pennsylvania, 153, Georgia, I'd imagine, 105 is also pretty big. Washington, not as big as I thought, 89, but as opposed to Oregon, some of these states, I'd say, also really don't matter. Say South Dakota, 14 delegates, okay. North Dakota, also 14. Wyoming, 13. But the ones that really, really don't matter are these. Like American Samoa, 6 delegates. Okay, who cares? Unless it's a incredibly close race for the nomination, nobody is gonna. I don't think anyone has like ever campaigned in any of the territories other than Puerto Rico, which has a decent delegate count, 51. And yeah. I can't really predict what will happen in any of these areas. Um, Democrats abroad, which is what DA stands for, it's not a territory. I think Sanders will win there, just because he won like 80% of the vote there in 2016. For reference, Democrats abroad is Democrats living in foreign countries who can't vote in their state's respective primaries, and so they all get together and vote or whatever. I think that Steyer is probably going to yield some delegates. Okay, yep, that's my grandmother who is signed into my YouTube account. We'll have to fix that. Yeah, so what we're looking. Oh my god. Okay, so what we're looking at right now. Okay, so Biden is getting still destroyed. Buttigieg is doing well. Klobuchar is doing very well. Tulsi Gabbard apparently is not dropping out. Yeah, Biden's not doing so hot. I mean, he's really doing actually very, very poorly. Nashua has, it should be mentioned, yet to come in. Buttigieg is winning a few more rural counties now. It's sort of getting more dotted. Let's take, Iowa results by county. And my search engine has switched to Bing, which is not Bing, Yahoo, which is horrible because I hate Yahoo. I'll have to fix that. New York Times. Yes. There we are. Okay. Lots of vote inconsistencies. People generally lead. Let's compare and contrast. So, the purple counties are the counties that Joe Biden was able to win. The blue ones, in this shade of blue, are the ones Sanders was able to win. The yellow ones are the ones Buttigieg was able to win. The green ones are Klobuchar counties, and these I guess are tied counties. Purple ones are Biden's counties, and the single orange county is a Warren county. That Elizabeth Warren won by about 7/10 of a percentage point. As you can see, I can't pronounce this county's name, but it had a significant delegate yield. Pete Buttigieg won there. Other than that, though, the counties that Pete Buttigieg won were overwhelmingly rural or suburban. Take Dallas County. It gave Buttigieg a huge lead. Warren County, Madison County, Jasper County, all of these places, especially Marion County, he won by like 20, 30 points here. I mean, he blew the other candidates out of the water. And despite being smaller than, say, Johnson County, he won so overwhelmingly, his lead was much bigger. However, well, we'll see if we can actually get county results back. Okay, take Palo Alto County. Biden won by 10 points. Didn't matter because it's so small that it didn't make a dent on his numbers. Yeah, Buttigieg won 58 counties. Sanders won 20. Biden won 8 counties. Klobuchar won 5. And Warren won a single one. Well, like 7 counties were tied. All the counties Buttigieg won were rural. All the or suburban. All the counties that Biden and Klobuchar won were all very rural. I guess no, there aren't really any exceptions for Biden or Klobuchar. All these counties have like between 4 and 10 precincts, which indicates a very small county. Yeah, Marion County's not that huge either, but Buttigieg won by such a big margin that it didn't really matter, and it really helped him out. But let's go back. Let's take a look. Yeah, Trump's margin has sort of hovered around more of the same. Oh, he didn't get any votes in Landaff, which I guess is sort of a huge outlier. Bill Weld placed second. He didn't win a single township thus far, however. And yeah, Bloomberg is airing ads in California. I guess if Bloomberg can win there, that will be a huge deal. Like that will be a big, big, big deal. We're not really getting that much from New Hampshire's the Manchester area right now. Concord has finished reporting. Dover has not really. Results have not advanced that much, surprisingly. I think we're looking at about 20% of precincts reporting, 21% to be exact. It looks like Sanders is about to speak. Biden already left New Hampshire. I guess because he sort of saw some of this coming. I don't think he saw him placing 5th in the single digits happening, though. Like, that is awful. That is beyond awful. I mean, it's one thing if you're, like, a protest candidate, and it's another thing if you were leading 3 days ago by 8% nationally. And so Sanders is leading in New Hampshire by about 5%, which brings us back to our graphic in just a moment. Okay. So key race alert is that New Hampshire primary, The Democratic primary, Sanders leads by 5%. The order still Sanders, Buttigieg, Klobuchar, Warren, and Biden. Sanders has a slight lead in New Hampshire primary, not overwhelming, not very, very close. Say Buttigieg's lead in Iowa, but still fairly close. Sanders is able to keep up his lead by winning thus far all the cities or big towns basically in New Hampshire, and he's also running up the margins in sort of like the village towns like Keene. Or we'll find another one. No, these are all. Lebanon is another one of the village towns. He tied there, so that's an outlier. Huh. Oh, right here. Rochester. Sanders leads by 7. In Dover, Sanders leads still by 15%. In Somersworth, Sanders has a 9% lead. These leads are not like completely like really, really overwhelming. Like say Trump's lead in the New Hampshire primary thus far, but they're no less significant. And in a race that is close, a 15% lead in a county like Rochester could mean the difference between winning or losing. It is also worth noting that Biden is placing, he's not even placing competitively in most of these districts. In Hart's location, I guess that's the town, or maybe just the polling location name, if there isn't really a town there. But here, Biden wasn't even like, Biden was like 8th, I remember seeing the results from this precinct. Yang was 3rd, and so I guess that sort of made his campaign too optimistic. Bloomberg was 3rd at the time when the early results were coming in because it was just these 3 precincts, the 2 that Klobuchar won and the one that Bloomberg won. And I guess, again, but Bloomberg does not care about New Hampshire whatsoever. Let's see, how many votes does he have? Write-ins are about 190 votes. So probably I'd imagine maybe 120, 140 of those are votes for Bloomberg. Yeah, maybe even more. Like I think a lot of those are votes for Bloomberg. Deval Patrick, he's waiting for South Carolina, I guess. Michael Bennet was betting on New Hampshire, and I'm pretty sure he's going to drop out now. Klobuchar is dominating with white college-educated women, and that's a demographic that Elizabeth Warren, I guess, had been previously leading. The numbers just moved, but... Oh, no, okay, so Warren took a little bit of a dive. Biden also took some damage to his numbers. Klobuchar and Bernie and Buttigieg have mostly been stagnating, except earlier, where there was one point, I think, where Elizabeth Warren was like 3rd and Klobuchar was like 5th, and then her numbers skyrocketed once precincts started coming in. You can also see all these random people are just basically not Julian Castro or Steve Bullock, but some of these people like Steve Burke, Ben Gleiberman, Tom Coos. A lot of these people are like pretty much nobodies. They are irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. And we're going to check our stream health. Okay. So far, so good. We're still waiting on results in New Hampshire. We're going to take a brief intermission. And I'll leave this on so you can all watch the results come in. And I'll be back for live analysis and probably pretty quickly. All right, so we're back. Um, yeah, Warren conceded that she's gonna be in fourth. It will be interesting to look at those exit polls. We just lost a few viewers. Oh well. But let's get down back to that. Yeah. So what has changed? Sanders leads in Nashua, not by a lot. He also leads pretty narrowly in Manchester, while Buttigieg is doing well in sort of the townships in the south. Again, how much that matters remains to be seen because they're all have like 50 people living in them. Okay, so it has tightened slightly. Sanders leads by about 4% right now, with about a third of the vote reporting. Yeah. Okay. Can Buttigieg win? Because the vote's gonna start coming in pretty quickly, I'd imagine. Once these sort of the bigger precincts get in, you know. Once Manchester and Nashua, and Dover is in, it's gonna be pretty easy to know who will win unless it is very close. Like if Sanders is able to lead by like 5 points, it'll probably be pretty safe to call it for him. If Buttigieg or Klobuchar is leading, or if Sanders is leading very narrowly, we might have to wait for these rural places to come in. A lot of these, however, don't have polling places, the ones that haven't reported, but a lot of them, I guess, do. Not know there were actually any Democrats up here, so that's pretty interesting. It is noteworthy that Trump is now hit 85% of the vote. He's only losing 2 precincts right now. And one of them has an entire 1 voter, the other has 7. Yeah. Okay, so Warren's sort of been lashing out at her opponents. I mean, she really, her path to the nomination has sort of been cut off almost by the results of the primary, at least thus far. Because, I mean, with a 4th place finish, she's not going anywhere. Yeah, so that gut punch that Joe Biden predicted, it's like, it's much worse than a gut punch. It's like, it's horrible for him. It appears that Buttigieg is racking up margins in some of these southern towns. I will show you all. It is noteworthy that these blips, although small, are not as small as the townships right up here. And yeah. Okay, yes. So there are a few hundred votes in each of these areas, which means I guess they do matter. However, take Orange, which has a collective probably no more than 50, or in a more extreme example, Millsfield, which has an entirety of, I believe, 5 voters. Or there's also one area somewhere, I can't find it here, that has had like a single person vote. Yeah, Buttigieg, his leads in those sort of more southern counties, they do matter. That is not Klobuchar leading in Nashua. She's actually third in Nashville right now. Her performance there are currently pretty much on par with her state numbers. She's outperforming slightly, and the state as a whole compared to Nashua. However, it's only one of like 3 precincts, or one of 9 precincts. So that's a astronomically low. It's a third of a third. So like 11% basically of precincts have reported in. And did we just have movement? No, we didn't. Yeah, Sanders now, he has a 53% chance of winning. Sort of a flip of a coin chance. Buttigieg, 33% chance. And Klobuchar, 13 some chance. Warren has a less than 1% chance. Oh, and now Biden has replaced Warren as more likely to win, which is kind of weird. But I guess maybe another precinct reported in one of these areas. Nope. Must have been one of these. And a lot of these areas are really too small to really move the needle too much. Biden has really been underperforming with the demographics. He has been expected to not maybe win, but at least do respectably upon. And I mean, sure, if he can pass Elizabeth Warren, then he'll be able to essentially survive. If Warren places fifth, her campaign is dead, and she might as well drop out, like right now. Yang, I'm really surprised that Tulsi Gabbard is not dropping out. Because this was the state that she had to win. This was the state that she absolutely had to win, and it's just she didn't even get close. I mean, polls had her at like 6%. She's not even getting close to hitting that mark. Even that would have not been nearly enough to get delegates, and delegates are what matters, not the raw vote total. So we are looking at Sanders with a somewhat narrow lead. Yeah. Biden is trying to refocus attention on South Carolina. Probably going to have a lot of Nevada polls coming up. Because now that New Hampshire's over. Nevada and South Carolina. Which will be good, because we can gauge how Biden's performance is in the primaries thus far. Whether they have affected his Nevada numbers. Because before this, he was leading by like 8 points in Nevada. But that was also when he was leading by like 8 points nationally. Now Sanders is leading by 3 points nationally. Maybe he's leading by 3 points in Nevada. So we'll have to see. Now I'm looking for... Yeah. He has officially dropped out. Which... Wow. I mean... Gotta admit... For someone who started out as a complete unknown... I mean, he ordinarily... He would have been nothing more than, like... Mark Greenstein or whoever. But... This random tech guy was able to generate lots of momentum, build a nice campaign. His numbers were hurt by his loss in Iowa. Had he done better, I think he would have probably done a little bit better in New Hampshire. And he's now dropping out. So, farewell to Andrew Yang. Okay. And Michael Bennet also, it appears, dropped out. I'm going to find confirmation for that too, just to make sure. Yeah, so we are getting reports that Michael Bennet has dropped out. And yep, he has. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know why he was still in. I mean, he was polling at like 1%. He was getting his butt whooped in national polls by the gay mayor of South Bend, Indiana. I mean, when you're a senator, you'd imagine you have better things to do, especially with impeachment going on, but I guess he didn't. And he was able to keep this sort of thing running. Sort of like Kirsten Gillibrand. Like, she saw she was doing horribly in national polls between 0 and 1%. She had no pathway forward. She dropped out. And honestly, I can see the field continue to winnow. I think by Super Tuesday, only maybe Tom Steyer, if he does well enough in South Carolina, will stick around. At the most, the major candidates will be Sanders, Buttigieg, Klobuchar, Warren, Biden, Steyer, and Bloomberg. Because Tom Steyer's investment, according to polls, has paid off in South Carolina. Let's see if we can find any new polls of either of those states. No. However, they did report the Arkansas poll. Interesting. Yeah, so Bloomberg is winning narrowly, like really, really narrowly in Arkansas. Buttigieg is at 16% there. That is a big deal. It is worth noting the progressive candidates of a whole have a combined share of the vote of 27%. It's not particularly impressive, as opposed to the more moderate candidates sort of hitting around 61% or so. 60% or so. 60 to 61%. I'm not going to try and crunch those numbers now. But the moderate vote, that just shows how split the moderate vote is, because Sanders is within 4 points of winning Arkansas. And, I mean, the only reason that is remotely possible. Here, we'll pull up the 2016 Arkansas primary. Yeah, I mean, Bernie Sanders won 2 freaking counties there in 2016. He's probably not going to do much better. He got like 29% of the vote. That's like the share of the vote that progressives were polling in that poll. And, I mean, he just got completely blown out of the water here, and there's a chance he can win it because the vote splitting is so severe. Let's see if there are any other polls we can look at. No, see, even the wiki is super outdated. Democratic National Convention. Winner. Alright, so it's being held in Milwaukee, the convention. Here are the superdelegate counts. Okay. Eric Swalwell, he sort of has 1, I guess. Jay Inslee, 4. Kamala Harris, 18. I think a lot of these people will probably vote for someone else if there's a contested convention. I don't think they'll stick by the candidates they endorse, because this is just people who endorse someone who dropped out and just haven't re-endorsed. And so they're still counted for the candidate even though they've withdrawn. Yeah. So, as you can see, Buttigieg leads currently in the first ballot delegates. Sanders follows close behind, then Warren, then Biden, and then Klobuchar, who is in a distant 5th place for delegates. However, I think New Hampshire is probably going to change that, because she's placing 3rd right now, and that's a pretty big deal. She moved up 2 places. She was 5th in Iowa. And, I mean, she's moving up. So, she's investing a lot in Nevada now. And maybe she will be able to win. I don't think she'd be favored. Let's look at... Oh, no, 538 as their model and pause. Maybe when I live stream New Hampshire, we can take a look at it to see how it shifted. But, actually, let's look at it now. The other thing I hate about Yahoo is that it gives you all these ads, and it's just like stuff completely unrelated to what you're googling, and they're just trying to sell probably stuff that's like scams on you. So I have to fix my default browser. It's gonna be a pain. Yeah, as you see in Iowa, they really hurt Biden's chances. He now has a only 14% chance of being the nominee. Bloomberg's odds have been sort of creeping up, if you will. Huh. Why can I not? Oh. Yeah, Sanders is the forecasted winner. New Hampshire. Nevada. Yeah, these numbers are sort of skewed, I feel, because they're taking Iowa's results. And Iowa is not at all demographically like Nevada. And so I feel like the math can't really account for that at this point. Until we have not seen any relevant polling in either of those states for ages. And what that means is basically that we don't know what the race looks like right now. We have a very tiny picture in South Carolina that says Biden is still probably leading, although we don't really know. And according to this forecast, Biden would win like 2 states. Let's see if I can find it. Whoa, okay. Of the Super Tuesday states, Alabama, I believe, is the only one that. Oh, okay. So Biden's not even favored to win Alabama anymore. His chances have just nosedived everywhere. Let's look at Delaware. I'd imagine. What? Okay, that is definitely skewed then by Iowa's results. Yeah, that's not happening. Although I think no, that literally that is impossible. There's no chance that Sanders wins. They probably have him at like 100% in Vermont. Yeah, 55. So the mathematical model has Sanders winning a 50-state sweep, but that is solely because it is basing everything off of Iowa. Yeah, see, he's winning Maryland. He's winning all these states that have large African American populations, which I think would be quite difficult for Sanders to actually do. Or let's take Missouri. The poll there had Biden up by 30, and it's still, yeah. See, these, when they don't have actual polling, they just use sort of like, and they make a educated-ish guess. And that's why it has. See, I'd say the only I don't think we have any reliable estimates actually right now because they haven't factored in any polls. Maybe take a look in 5 days, and their Nevada estimate might be pretty accurate. Their Iowa estimate, other than missing Biden's sort of slump, was fairly accurate. They do not count on them, however, at all to predict delegate counts from per state. It's just not happening yet. Klobuchar, let's look at her chance. She has a less than 1 in 100 chance of winning. Stream health is mediocre. I'm sorry about that. Again, I'm gonna get new software. But so if Sanders is able to win a 50-state sweep, well, already he will not win a 50-state sweep, because he didn't get the most delegates in Iowa. I mean that the assumption that he would win a 50-state sweep is just ridiculous. Because these are not actual delegate numbers. I'm just going to fill it in to make it look more sort of realistic, almost. Like, I'll give you a map graphic because Biden is going to win Delaware. He's not going to get all the delegates. I'm just doing that for the sake of simplicity. Biden is going to win South Carolina, chances are. Okay? Biden is most likely going to win Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. I just said that backwards. And Florida and Missouri, unless Bloomberg is able to catch up with him in Missouri. What we're looking at right now, Bloomberg's going to win Arkansas. Bloomberg's probably going to win Connecticut. Bloomberg could win New York. I'm going to leave that blank for now. Biden's probably going to win Virginia. Again, unless Bloomberg takes his place, and then Bloomberg will get all these states. And imagine Klobuchar, especially after their strong performance, is going to win Minnesota. She's probably going to win North Dakota, because she has a lot of fans there, apparently. Same can be said about South Dakota, although I'm not 100% sure about that one. I think Biden's probably would be favored to win Maryland also. While Buttigieg would be favored in Indiana, obviously. Sanders would be favored in Vermont. Biden would be probably favored in North Carolina. Sanders would be favored in Nebraska, Kansas, all these states he won by big margins back in 2016. Colorado. New Mexico's a swing state, we'll leave that blank. Utah. Washington, he'd probably win. Wyoming. Idaho, basically all the Democrats there are college students, so I think Bernie actually could get probably most, if not all, of the delegates there. Sanders will also probably win Oregon. And Hawaii. And Alaska, probably. So all the states we left blank are sort of ones that we don't really know what to sort of think about. DC, I'd also say. The Biden and Bloomberg states, a lot of the Biden states have a very good shot of going to Bloomberg, Georgia as well. Because they have high African American populations. But the ones that have lower African American populations, but still significant African American populations, like Arkansas, Tennessee, maybe Illinois, would probably fit pretty squarely into the Bloomberg camp. However, this is not our actual map. This is just a prediction of the states that we can sort of make an educated guess. Also, as I said before, when Democrats abroad. But yeah, those are some updated results on the graphic right now. So I may. Yeah, wow, okay. So apparently the crowd at Biden's thing is his campaign event. They're all like hyped up, even though he just placed like 5th in New Hampshire. Although he might pass Warren because she's really lagging right now. I'd say because Buttigieg is sort of doing what. Klobuchar is sort of doing what Buttigieg is to Biden in Iowa. That Buttigieg cut into a lot of the moderate voters that Biden would have won, older white people. Buttigieg won overwhelmingly a lot of the older, whiter, more rural counties. And yeah, so I mean, Klobuchar is winning with white college-educated women, which is a demographic that was supposed to basically carry Elizabeth Warren. And the comparison there is pretty similar, although I really doubt Warren is going to be able to. I'm sorry, I really doubt Klobuchar is going to be able to lead. Buttigieg leads up here, I guess. It's good for him. Nothing has come in from Nashua quite yet, although it is getting closer because a lot of Buttigieg townships are coming in, and a lot of these are more more densely populated areas in the south, at least compared to the towns up north. They are much more densely populated. They're still tiny, but they are bigger than all these places, which have like 6 people living in them. Buttigieg, worth noting, he's leading quite considerably in Londonderry, which I guess would probably be like the sort of suburb town for Manchester, and that's sort of showing the trend that we have from Iowa, although Bernie Sanders is doing better in rural areas. Yeah, okay, so the reason he is leading right now is because of his huge win in Keene. He's just doing a really, really good job in Keene. Okay, Buttigieg won here. Klobuchar picked up another area, but yeah. But these bubbles basically represent the contribution each area makes to a candidate's lead. And the bubble is biggest for Keene, even though it has much fewer people than Manchester, Concord, Dover, or Nashua. And that's because all those areas are close. Keene is not close. Sanders is blowing out his opponents, just completely. Buttigieg is doing well in Londonderry. He's doing well all these places, not nearly as well as the 13-point margin that Bernie Sanders has racked up in Keene. Actually, I've been to Keene before. It's a very nice town, and so, yeah. I did not think it would have this much of an impact on the presidential primary, mostly because it's so small. But then again, it is New Hampshire. Look at the Republican race. Andrew Yang might run for mayor of New York. Huh. Okay. Well, yeah, so Trump has basically won like every precinct in New Hampshire. Although, I've yet to find one where Bill Weld has not gotten a... Oh, actually, I have, but I've yet to find one, where Trump has gotten all the votes. He's getting pretty close in some of these counties. He's like 97% in a few of them. I keep saying counties. They're really townships. New Hampshire does not have a lot of counties. Yeah, but Trump is leading overwhelmingly in the cities and the suburbs. Yeah, okay. I guess Biden thinks he's doing fine. Yeah, Joe Biden's talking to the crowd. I guess they're trying to... They're trying to draw away attention, I guess, already, from their simply awful performance here. Although, again, it is possible that Biden passes Elizabeth Warren because her numbers have been receding all night. She went from 14% to now about 9%. Biden hasn't really seen any real movement upwards, just Warren has seen movement downwards. Klobuchar is sort of hugging that 20%, though. 40% reporting. We have that going on. So, we're now going to go back to all those questions. We had all those predictions. Yes. So, right now, Manchester, Nashua, and Concord are really, really running up the margin for Bernie Sanders. Endorsements so far have not helped Joe Biden at all. He is performing abysmally and horribly. Pete Buttigieg, I don't think so, because I think a lot of southern New Hampshire is in that, at least that he's winning, is in the district of the person who did not endorse him. I do not know though, so I'll have to look into that more closely. But we're seeing the same trend here, is that Bernie Sanders is winning cities, some of them by pretty big margins, like say, Keene in New Hampshire or Sioux Falls in Iowa, both of which he've won by more than 10 points, or maybe like Des Moines or like Nashua, which he's winning by like 2 or 4 points respectively. But regardless, he is winning pretty much every city. Buttigieg is winning suburban counties, um, and rural counties also. He's winning lots of rural areas. Klobuchar is winning rural areas, although in New Hampshire, it would appear a lot of her strength is coming from the cities, because she's not really doing so. I'm not under the impression she's doing incredibly in suburban areas. So Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg are projected to get at least 3 delegates each. Um, it's quite interesting. So I guess they've already done some sort of math, and they've determined that each of those candidates will at least get that percentage of the vote. Yeah, so we're close. We're closing in on 51% reporting, and the results have not really. I mean, it's gotten slightly closer. Sanders leads by 3 now. So I guess we're gonna. So it's a exciting night so far. New Hampshire 2020 primary. Our curious alert: it is still too close to call. The New Hampshire Democratic primary. I'm gonna have to. I'm hoping that results will come in more quickly, and I don't know why it still says the graphic is not doing what it's supposed to. Okay, there. That is it. 41% reporting. We got to smooth out some of these tech things, but yeah. So it the only thing that has changed so far is Bernie Sanders' margin. I mean, it is slowly, like at a crawl, I'd say, decreased. Yeah, really not a significant margin at all. And this sort of crawl of the margin decreasing could be amplified if Amy Klobuchar or Pete Buttigieg is able to do well in Nashua. I mean, Joe Biden, his only hope is that he can pass Warren, and so he doesn't place 5th. But I guess he also wants Warren to stay in the race because that is keeping some votes from Sanders. Unified Progressive Front could be very bad for Biden, especially when his votes are being split 4 ways now. I do think Biden can still win Nevada because he is much stronger with minority voters. However, his weakness with white voters will it will still be a pretty big problem in Nevada because the Democratic electorate there is still majority white, and there's actually more Hispanic than African American voters there. Honestly, I thought Andrew Yang would have hung on at least till California because some polls had him doing all right there. Maybe he could have gotten some momentum, but unfortunately for him, would not appear so. Yeah. So the New Hampshire primary remains too close to call, and we're gonna take, I guess, a look now at Super Tuesday. Okay. Yes, you can see the results right there. Okay. God, I can't seem to find it. Let's look at images. Okay. So here they are. Vermont. Sanders is gonna win. Warren has plans to stick on until Super Tuesday, but if she places fifth in New Hampshire, I don't think she's gonna sort of hold on. That being said, Sanders will probably win Massachusetts. Same with Rhode Island. Oh no, Rhode Island doesn't vote. Biden or Bloomberg will win. Probably Sanders could win Texas, but Biden or Bloomberg will win Arkansas, Tennessee, Virginia, North Carolina, Alabama, and Georgia. Sanders is probably going to win Colorado and Oklahoma as well. I can see Klobuchar winning Minnesota. She also could win elsewhere. If she really gets a ton of momentum off of this, she could win other states. Say she campaigns extensively in Oklahoma. Fairly small media market, not a lot of delegates at stake, so you're not going to have tons of candidates flocking there. I'd imagine Sanders is probably going to spend most of his time in either Massachusetts, Texas, or maybe one of the larger southern states if he even bothers to go there at this point. Yeah. So we're going to go back, look at results. And Bernie Sanders' lead is, 3 votes just came in, woohoo. But his lead is progressively shrinking. He's close to leading by only 2 percentage points. Again, it is his to lose. I'll say over and over again, it is Bernie Sanders' race to lose. And, okay, so these Klobuchar's won a few more precincts in the South. They're not really relevant, though. I don't think Bernie Sanders' campaign is too upset about losing these precincts. However, we are still waiting on, Manchester has sort of started to trickle in, and Sanders is still leading somewhat substantially in Manchester. Nothing has happened in Dover, surprisingly. Okay. Monroe is tied between Warren and Sanders. Wow. That is a liberal town. Pittsburgh, largest township. Buttigieg is won there. Not by a lot. And yeah. Oh, okay, so Gabbard, interestingly enough, placed... It's actually not that interesting. It's like a town of 50 people. But she was able to place 4th in a single township, so good job, Tulsi. Okay. I'm trying to find that one place. There was one where Yang is 3rd, or was 3rd, rather. I can't find it. Is this it? It is. Yang was 3rd in this single precinct. It's just like how in one county, in Iowa 2016, Rand Paul got 7% of the vote, and everywhere else he was like under 1%. And, okay. Dublin write-ins are also winning, which means it's either a write-in candidate or Mike Bloomberg just won another town. We're going to Google that. And I'll let you all know when we figure that out. I can't find anything. Here, maybe. I'd imagine that it's probably Mike Bloomberg who won there. Because he's like the only relevant write-in candidate. Yeah. Okay. A lot of precincts, I think, just came in. All right. Okay, margin is unchanged. Nearly half of precincts are reporting. and it is 9:40. So within, okay, yeah, Klobuchar is being sort of introduced as the comeback kid. Lots of high energy on the Klobuchar campaign. Buttigieg, I guess they're thinking maybe they can win this thing, you know? Um, if it's still close once all those cities come in, Buttigieg keeps doing well in southern rural areas, which are more populated than rural areas in the north, maybe he can win. However, Sanders is still, forecasted to be slightly favored to win, for the 53% chance. Flip of a coin. Buttigieg, maybe. Klobuchar, there's a distant possibility. Warren and Biden, it's sort of close. It is next to impossible. Alright, so Alton just reported, and whether that is a relevant area. Nope, it's not. No, okay, so Alton is not a relevant area. Sanders is performing well enough, it should be noted, in rural townships. You know, Buttigieg, it does not appear he has strength in rural areas, but not like he did in Iowa. He won 40, not 40, like 58 counties in Iowa, as opposed to Sanders winning, I believe, 10 or 12. The moderates altogether are not performing quite as well in rural areas. Possibly because there's more vote split. There's like extreme vote splitting going on here. Because let's add the percentages together. Bernie Sanders overall would have 35% of the vote. The moderates altogether are garnering like 51% of the vote. And so, yeah, that's pretty. That is some extreme vote splitting when there's a double digit difference like that, like 20 points. And if you're still losing, that means your votes are getting split. Hmm. Sanders' campaign feeling good. One precinct just report. Oh wow. Okay, that is a lot of votes. That is a lot of votes. 3 percentage points. I guess that means you just got closer. It's not Dover. It's not Concord. They've already reported. Huh. What could that have been? Some place just reported like 1,000 votes. Oh, it must be one of these that I guess I missed before. I mean, it's sort of a sign about what you can call suburbs when the suburb has just as many precincts as the city itself. Yeah, I don't know where any of these places are. Huh, that's really weird. Okay, we have another tied township, this time between Sanders and Klobuchar. Other ones are Sanders and Buttigieg and Warren and Sanders up here. I'd imagine just from the trend that Sanders is going to win this township down here, Rollingsford. Well, I would imagine Sanders is also going to win Colebrook. because they are sort of divided into voting blocks. Oh, and a new precinct in Alton. Buttigieg is in the lead. I don't know if that's a new precinct or just one that is reporting more votes. Oh. Yeah, but wow. Okay. Okay, so Sanders' lead has winnowed now to about 2.5 percentage points. Klobuchar won a plurality of women, while Sanders won a plurality of men. Again, really good news for the Klobuchar campaign right now. I mean, she sort of had a lackluster performance in Iowa. I want to say, I don't know, lackluster is the right word, but it was disappointing. She was hoping to do better. She got 12% of the vote. Now she is at 20%, so that's a pretty nice improvement. As you can see, first round Sanders won by about 3 points in Iowa. Second round he won by a single point. Yeah. Buttigieg barely won the state delegate equivalent count. And, yep, Deval Patrick managed to get only 9 votes on the first alignment. Pretty impressive, I must say. And he also managed to get 0 votes on the second alignment. And even Cory Booker, who dropped out, got a state delegate equivalent, but Tulsi Gabbard, Michael Bennet, Deval Patrick, and John Delaney all did not. It's also worth mentioning that John Delaney actually did not get a single vote, probably because he dropped out 3 days before, and nobody really knew who he was in the first place. Yeah. So we don't have finalized results from that. Yeah, so good news for the Klobuchar team. It appears Trump has lost another township to write-ins. Dublin. Huh, okay. So, interestingly enough, Bill Weld has not won a single township. However, write-in candidates, probably someone like Mitt Romney, have been able to win a few precincts. A few, as in literally 3 out of maybe 60 that are reporting. If not more. Maybe it's like 100. Yeah, 145 precincts are reporting, and Trump has won a grand total of how many? Yeah, he has won 143 of the 146 reporting precincts. Almost all of them have also been by big margins. I've yet to find a close precinct anywhere here. No, because Dover's not like remotely competitive. All of these have a minimum of like a 75% margin for the one candidate who they voted for. Yeah, Bill Weld is not gonna. No, that's just not happening. There's some optimism that he'd get like 10% of the vote, which would be pretty decent showing, but that didn't happen. And he's now stuck at 8%, which is very bad. Maybe someone like Bill Weld might be able to pull off. Oh, and Sanders just actually gained for the first time in a while, probably because one of the city precincts came in. But what Bill Weld might be able to do is he might be able to pull off some upset, not wins necessarily, but just get it closer in some Democratic-leaning states. Huh. Oh, it must have been a... Oh, no, that's it. Manchester... Okay, Manchester just completely came in. Yeah, Sanders' odds just increased astronomically. Looks like he's gonna win. However, I will not call it for him. The live stream, by the way, ends at 11, and it is now I believe 10 o'clock. Yeah, close to it. So we have about an hour. Whether it will be decided by then sort of remains to be seen. The results have been like crawling in. We do have 52% of precincts reporting. 3 precincts just reported 2,000 votes. Yeah. I don't think Biden is going to pass Warren, which is god-awful for his team. But again, he is optimistic about his chances of winning Nevada, and South Carolina. And so, we'll see. Okay. Stream health is good. I spelled everything correctly. Yep. We're all good. I'm not going to reveal my stream key. Software is all good. Everything is great. Let's try out the live control room. Hope I didn't just do something. Oh, God. Okay. Alright, we're back. That did not do what I thought it would do, so we're just gonna leave it. I have not gotten used to the new YouTube stuff, because they changed how you run live streams, and I just can't do it. Oh, some more updated results on our graphic. Sanders leads, but, you know, it's not a overwhelming lead. It's 3 points. That can be changed, although it is. Sanders' odds did just like sort of. Oh no, they're back down a little bit. Did something from Nashville? No, nothing from Nashville came in. I don't know. It must. Maybe it was one of these precincts in the middle of nowhere that came in for Buttigieg or Klobuchar or somebody who's not Bernie. It is worth noting that Elizabeth Warren has not won a single precinct thus far. Neither has Joe Biden. Amy Klobuchar has won a few. Sanders, he has 68 townships, while Buttigieg has 39. It's actually the opposite of what happened in 2016. We'll take Iowa primary results. I'll go to give you an idea. Oh, God. One moment. Do you get a by county map here? No, of course you don't. There is somewhere you can find a. Oh no, you can just find. No, we went too far. Yeah. So, sort of like now, Bernie Sanders was able to pull off a extraordinarily narrow win. Oh, that's so lazy. God. Could they not just have a... Oh, do it. Okay. No, that's 2012. Oh my God. Okay, here. So Clinton won a lot of the more urban counties, right? Like Des Moines. She lost a few of the cities, but she won DeBurke or whatever it's called. She won Des Moines. She won Dallas County. She won Marion County. She won all these suburbs, and The rural counties, however, were sort of a mixed bag. Some went for Sanders, some went for Clinton. 3 actually tied. Yeah. And so just to show how unreliable statewide polling for primaries can be, um, this one had Hillary leading by 8 points against Bernie Sanders, and that obviously did not happen. Yeah, this one also had her up by 8. She won by a third of a percentage point, almost as narrow as the 2020 margin, which was, for state delegate equivalents, it was a tenth of a percentage point. For the actual popular vote, however, it was less close. Yeah, so, the first alignment, who lost? Oh, Biden lost quite a few counties. Klobuchar lost a few. Oh, no, that's not Biden. Biden did lose a few counties. So did Sanders. Um, huh. Okay. Um, Fortunately, in New Hampshire, they do not assign delegates the same way because it is extremely confusing and horrible to figure out what is happening. It's gotten a bit tighter. Buttigieg is being introduced by Ann Custer, who is the endorsee. So I guess it didn't really matter in the long run. Unless, yeah, I guess it didn't really matter in the long run. However, she will be introducing him, so at least that's pretty nice. I'd say I have the support of your elected official, so you should go vote for me. Even though nobody really cares about that anymore. But it's still always a nice thing to be able to say. I have your endorsement. Your people that you voted for trust me. You should trust me too. You know, because back in the day, um, it used to have a lot of clout. Endorsements from party officials. A lot of it was because the party bigwigs had more of an influence on who was the nominee. That is no longer the case, especially with the reforms by Tom Perez. But, it's still there are a lot of people who care about that stuff. Look at the indoor. Oh, wow, okay. Yeah. So Elizabeth Warren just got a string of endorsements. Wow. All these people. Or maybe she had them before. Oh no, she did. I thought she'd gained suddenly. But let's find Mayor Pete and Custer. Endorsed him, New Hampshire. David Losbach. The ironic thing is that I believe Pete actually performed worst of the 4 districts in Iowa. I think that other than maybe the 4th district, that the district David Losbach represented was actually the worst for him. He did best in the 3rd district, which is represented by Cindy Axne. And that includes a lot of Des Moines suburbs that he won overwhelmingly, like Dallas County. Or Tom Steyer, his endorsements really don't matter. I'd say only mayors, representatives, maybe like a few state officials, governors, like DNC member endorsements. People really don't care. They have no influence. What is worth noticing is Mike Bloomberg is being endorsed by more and more Congress people from swing districts. Say Ben McAdams. Trump won his district by 8 points. The only reason that Hillary was able to get so close is because a third-party candidate was splitting Republican votes. Mike Sherrill, she won by 15 points in a Trump district in 2018. Haley Stevens won by 6 points in the Trump district in 2016. Harley Ruda, he's another swing district person. Max Rose, first Democrat to represent Long Island and not Long Island, Staten Island, and God knows how long. Trump won his district by 8 points. Yeah. You also do notice that a lot of swing state Congress people did endorse. Oh my God. Once we get back, a lot of them did endorse Biden. Let's say, I'm gonna have to cherry pick here. Tim Ryan. His district is not really a swing district, but it did trend toward Trump. Charlie Crist, former Republican, first of all. Also, a district that Hillary only won by 2 points. She won by like 20 in 2018. Tom Malinowski. Clinton won his district, but barely. He won by about 5 points. Sean Maloney, who won by about 10 points in 2018, but his district went for Trump. Cindy Axne, the congresswoman from Iowa, where one of the worst performances district-wide was. Trump won her district by, I believe, 3 points. She won back in 2018 by, I think, like 2 or 3 points also. Somewhere here, Connor Lamb endorsed Trump. Not Trump, Joe Biden. And Connor Lamb is congressman from Pennsylvania. Trump won his district by 2 points. He won by 13. Here's another good example. Doug Jones, the senator from Alabama. He's up in 2020. I mean, he's really at risk, especially voting for impeachment. He's probably going to lose by like 10 points. And I guess he thinks that maybe Biden has a chance of carrying him at least enough down the ballot that he has a chance at doing like acceptably. Ami Bera, another congressman from swing district. Clinton won by about 3 points here. Ami Bera last time around won by like 13 at least. In 2018. I believe he is also he has a distinction. He's like the only. I have to Google it, but he's part of a religious group, and he is the only one. Wait, let me find it. Huh. Oh. I think he's Sikh, which would make him the only one. Huh. Tulsi Gabbard, who's also running for president, has the distinction of being the only Hindu, in Congress, although she won't be for long because she's retiring. Why she's retiring, I sort of don't really understand, because even if she runs for president as third party, she's not going to get anywhere. I guess she might be wanting to run for Senate or something. Or maybe she just really thought she could win, and she was trying to demonstrate her commitment, and she just sort of wasted her time. But we're going to resume our watching of New Hampshire. Okay, so Bernie Sanders' odds have sort of been going up. It is now likelier than not that he wins, which means that he is going to win. Although it is not really certain enough to give a projection. Huh. Yeah, Buttigieg is breathing down Sanders' neck. Big question for Klobuchar and Buttigieg. Yeah, they have to do well among minorities. South Carolina, Nevada. Klobuchar can't count on white college-educated women, and Pete Buttigieg can't count on whoever's voting for him. Old white people, mostly, it would appear. Really, I guess anyone living in a rural area. Oh, wow, okay. So Pete Buttigieg has taken the lead in Nashua, which is pretty big deal. he wins Nashua, that could sort of derail Sanders's plans a little bit. Whether he will win Nashua or not sort of remains to be seen. But he's certainly going to cut into Sanders's lead now. Huh. The lead is so narrow, though, it could change in like a second. 60% of precincts reporting. It's currently 10:05. Good. Okay. Biden is probably not going to pass. Warren has said it now, but like it really does not look like it's going anywhere. Tulsi Gabbard, again, she's not getting a performance. She's getting like half the votes that polls expect her to get, and she would have needed to gotten double digits to really stay relevant. Michael Bennett, I mean, wow. I feel kind of bad for the guy, you know. He's a senator. Ordinarily, he would have been like the perfect candidate. He's moderate. He's a senator. He's in a swing state. I mean, normally Pete Buttigieg would be the one in with 0.3% of the vote, and Michael Bennett would be probably pulling like 9 to 10% of the vote in a normal race. But I feel like Michael Bennett was one of those dark horse candidates, like Steve Bullock, and there was always that possibility that they would break out, and then they'd probably like destroy Biden's chances, and maybe even win the like I could have seen Bullock winning the nomination at one point. I actually considered myself a Steve Bullock supporter. Thing is, though, he didn't gain any traction. He had a good debate, but he simply did not gain any traction, and without gaining any traction, he wouldn't have been able to win. He would have had a lackluster performance in Iowa. He said he needed a top 5 finish in Iowa to sort of get his message out, maybe even win the nomination. He wouldn't have gotten that. He wouldn't have even gotten close. And that would have been, I mean, he was just basically wasting his time campaigning. There was really no point in him doing it at that point, unfortunately for him. Because, I mean, he could have ran for Senate, too. And everyone was pressuring him, saying, go run for Senate, run for Senate. He wouldn't run for Senate. And at least he didn't sort of do what Beto did. And Beto completely shot himself in the foot. I mean, this guy, he was so promising. At one point, he had like 10% in national polls. And he had an awful debate where he spoke like 5th grade level Spanish. And it just all went downhill from there. And, I mean, he started to get more radical, I guess, sort of to try and win over progressive voters. Because the El Paso shooting had the opportunity, he was from El Paso, that had the opportunity to not only provide him with something to talk about on the debate. I know that sounds cynical, but that's the reality. It provided him with possibly something he could springboard himself off of back into at least being competitive in national polls. And, I mean, what he ended up doing is he just kept digging himself farther into the hole. And now he can't run for office in Texas because they love guns there, and everyone thinks he is a crazy socialist. And he also, there was a close race in a Texas State House district. Then on the last few days, Buttigieg campaigned for them, and the Democrat got blown out by 16 points. So, I mean, even he's admitted, like, he's not useful anymore. Like, or if he had not run for president, he could have just campaigned for people, and maybe they could have won, you know? Or at least maybe he could have helped them on their path to winning. But now he's more in a liability than anything else, not to mention that he's probably never going to hold office again unless he gets appointed to some sort of cabinet position. Or, that being said, he could also run for mayor of El Paso, but I don't know, that just doesn't seem like the sort of thing that he would be doing. Yeah, so, oh, yikes, and they managed to lose another precinct. Dublin is no longer write-in territory. Here, I don't know where it is. Wow, okay, these are really in the middle of nowhere. But Dublin, wherever it may be, apparently is no longer voting for write-in candidates. Or at least not the majority of people. Well, I'm not going to go searching through this whole thing to find it. Dublin, wherever it is, it's really weird. I have no idea where the town could have gone. Um, hmm. But yeah, Trump is still running up these pretty big margins in most New Hampshire precinct sites. Again, he lost this one. He lost this one. Does it matter at this point? No. He lost 2 precincts. Who cares? Probably interesting to see what's going on his Twitter. He's probably jumping for joy right now because had he only gotten like 60% of the vote in the primary, I know it only sounds like, oh, only 60%, but for an incumbent president, that is not very good. Now I said, a very bad night for Mini Mike, as in he forgot that Mike Bloomberg is not. Oh my god. Yep. Mike Bloomberg is not on the ballot in New Hampshire. Oh, that's what happened. Mike Bloomberg won the Republican primary in Dixieville. Hmm. Guess I can't log into my Twitter. But yeah, so I guess Mike Bloomberg is getting some of these write-ins. It's either Mike Bloomberg or Mitt Romney, because Mitt Romney got some write-ins during Iowa. Hmm. So Bloomberg, oh not Bloomberg, Klobuchar is striking out a Buttigieg. More of Nashua is coming in, or the Nashua area, I should say, because that would be a more correct term. Buttigieg is leading, not really by that much though. Actually, it's actually not by much at all. It's 2 votes, and in a city like that, sort of. Yeah. So, Buttigieg, Klobuchar, they're surging, right? But Sanders has raised a lot of money, and he's going to be able to sort of stay around, even if he doesn't do so well. Even if he loses New Hampshire, he will still be able to keep going because he has the money, he has the resources, he also has a very devoted fan base, and they're going to be willing to stick with him through hell or high water. Uh, Hill, there's not even a town, it's just Hill. But that precinct is tied. Um, Sanders leads in Lee, wherever that might be. Oh, that rhymed. Yeah, the results up north are sort of a mixed bag, I guess. Uh, Buttigieg is obviously doing well in this, like, sort of cluster here. Sanders, I mean, it's sort of more split over here. Uh, Concord, also, the areas around it are very, very split. Most of the areas, this section of New Hampshire down here is splitting mostly for Buttigieg, while this section of New Hampshire is splitting mostly for Sanders. And Buttigieg, Klobuchar's precincts are sort of just scattered all over the place, though most of them are sort of in this area. Yeah. Hmm. Uh, Klobuchar is no longer second in Manchester. She is still second in Concord. She is not second in Dover either. No, okay, she's not even close. That is the only place really where I think Elizabeth Warren could sort of get competitive-ish. Yeah, Sanders leads by 2 percentage points, 63% of precincts reporting. Wow. Hmm. Sanders, however, is still favored to win. Unless there's a surprise out of either of these cities, I guess. Say, I mean, I think it's pretty much accepted fact that Bernie Sanders is going to win Dover. The question is how much. If Pete is able to win Nashua, then that'll be pretty good for his campaign. There's still, it could have come down again to these rural counties. These rural townships. My apologies. They could be what decides who wins and who loses. Especially if it's very, very close, and it could be down to the wire. Alright, we're going to take a quick intermission. And I will be back in probably about 10 minutes. I have to get some tech stuff done with my iPad because it's being irritating. I will leave this on so you can see the live results and the journalist updates too. Right now, Bernie Sanders leads by just under a percentage point. And I guess we'll take a closer look at that in just a moment. Alright, so tech problems resolved. There was an issue with the slide. Sanders apparently has been doing well with non-white voters in majority white states. Huh. Okay. So, yeah, so, Buttigieg is sort of hovering these areas. Have any more? Concord, Dover, and okay, so Manchester is 100% in. Biden did okay there, as in he did not lose to Elizabeth Warren. But he's had like a very, very bad finish. Whether he will be able to recover from it remains to be seen. Hmm. Yeah, so he's doing well with Latino voters in New Hampshire, although that's sort of like doing well with like surfboarders in Nebraska, where I mean your support from that demographic doesn't really matter that much. In the grand scheme of things, it is unimportant ultimately. Not only that, but it also gives a false idea that you're going to do that well with other groups. And like I do not think Bernie Sanders will get 40% of the vote in Nevada among Hispanic voters. Just really cannot see that happening. Okay. So, let's see what is going on in the Republican race. Nothing. Nothing at all. No, it's not even close anywhere. I'd like to point out that Joe Walsh, even though he was running for president a day ago, has placed third in only one township. Everywhere else, write-ins have beat him. Mary Maxwell, whoever that is, also placed third. She's either probably an arch conservative, moderate, or a libertarian. There's no way she is a establishment figure. Yeah. So Bernie Sanders. Oh, look, Steve Burke got 400 votes. Impressive. Um, did he win anywhere? Oh my God, he did. He won a town. Good job, Steve Burke. Good job, man. Wow. Okay. That's weird. That's really weird. I don't know how that could have happened. I'm gonna have to. Hmm. That's really strange. You know, like I was just trashing this guy an hour ago, and he just won a township. And he's now outrunning like actual major contenders. It's actually kind of sad for them, but wow, man, really good job. Yeah. I find it kind of weird though that Buttigieg has not placed top four, even though all the areas surrounding it he's won or is leading in. As in the case of Nashua, where I mean his lead is just so small and so volatile that you can. It's essentially a tie, really. I mean, it's not more than a tie. Yeah. So Bernie Sanders officially has won Concord. Uh, a few more precincts just came in. Buttigieg leads. Let's look at the needle. Okay, so it's still looking like Sanders more and more as time goes on. If it hits 70%, I might have to call the race for him. Maybe not, because the lead is still very narrow. Yeah, and now Trump is super hyped because Biden is getting destroyed. I mean, yeah, the Biden campaign. Trump will say whatever. He won't actually. Let's say he thinks he wants to face. He's saying he wants to face Biden because he thinks he'll beat him easily, right? If he actually thought that, he wouldn't be saying it. Um, I think the candidate he would most be afraid of would be someone who like came out of nowhere, like maybe Steve Bullock, you know, because he was a red state governor. Um, he got stuff done. He's a moderate. He has no baggage. He's well liked. Uh, but I mean, all these candidates have baggage. Bernie Sanders with his flip flopping on gun control. Pete Buttigieg with the issue of race in South Bend. Amy Klobuchar because she apparently treated her staff terribly. Warren with the whole college thing, and Joe Biden. Don't even get me started on all of his gaffes. Um, Steve Bullock didn't really do anything. Like he was just a chill guy, you know. And but unfortunately, chill guys do not win presidential primaries. It looks like Bernie Sanders' Dover amoebae is slowly expanding outward. Well, Pete Buttigieg's precincts are sort of just staying where they are. Yeah. It looks like Bernie is gonna win. Actually, it really looks like Bernie is going to win. Especially if he keeps up these current margins. I mean, he did win Manchester by 11 points. Okay, he's won Dover. Dover hasn't reported yet, but I mean, I feel like he can only make it so competitive. Alright. Time is it? It is 30. Some more precincts coming in on the Republican side, but nothing has changed. What percentage are we at? That's a question we should be asking before we consider making a call. 70% of votes reported. With a 2% difference, I would not say that is enough to call. We'll see how this affects the 538 predictions. That'll sure be interesting. Yeah, Biden is lagging badly. He's really, I mean, wow. He's getting whoa, okay. Oh my gosh. The graphic just went nuts. But the margin is unchanged. Um, it'll be interesting to see if Sanders, after 2 wins, is able to pick up any endorsement points. It'll actually be, yeah, because Sanders, he's lagging behind other front runners. See, Biden is not leading right now, but all 5 of the candidates considered front runners, or maybe 6. We have Buttigieg, Klobuchar, Sanders, Bloomberg, Warren, and Biden are arguably the front runners. Actually, that's very interesting. All the candidates who are likely to stick around after South Carolina all have at least 1 point in the endorsement primary. I guess Michael Bennett was the exception to that, and he just dropped out. So, you know. It's also worth noting Seth Moulton and Tim Ryan both endorsed Biden. They are former presidential candidates. Moulton sort of has a sad story, because he he sort of lingered around 0%. He never got into the debate stage, and he just sort of his campaign didn't ever go anywhere at all. And he sort of had to. Now he is the only thing he has is a primary challenge in his home district, from the guy he beat a few years ago. So I mean, it's also worth noting, back on the note of the Republican primary, uh, that if that Bill Weld could drop out, because he was betting on New Hampshire. Because if he won New Hampshire, I don't think even Bill Weld really thought he could win New Hampshire. He thought that maybe he could make it more competitive than it is now. And I think even if he does terribly, he'll probably stay in, but there's always a chance that he'll drop out after a very poor showing in New Hampshire. And it remains to be seen. Because, I mean, he's running on fumes. His fundraising's been consistently awful. His campaign is mostly run by Bush alumni. And I mean, unfortunately for the anti-Trump Republicans, they're a lot of them are fading away. A lot of them, first of all, like Carlos Cabello, lost in 2018 to Democrats. Others lost in primary challenges, and then lost to Democrats, like Mark Sanford, who was actually running against Trump at a point, but it was sort of pointless for him to be doing that, because there was no chance he was going to win. Also, he sort of ruined his political career by having an extramarital affair with someone in Argentina, but somehow I guess he managed to get back into the House of Representatives. Don't even ask me how that happened. He was a Trump critic, so he got primaried. Trump endorsed his challenger, which basically, if you're a Republican, that means you're gonna probably lose. And he lost. And then the woman who replaced him managed to lose to a Democrat. And I mean, I thought he would maybe run for re-election or something, or at least try running for his seat again, but apparently not. Apparently, Mark Sanford does not have those priorities in mind. Here, we're gonna do a comparison. From now to '08. Okay, yeah, so, oh, they don't have a by, town map, but yeah, so, Buttigieg is showing strength of actually where Hillary Clinton showed strength. Notice that Buttigieg leads where Hillary led. Down here, here, and I don't know if he's actually leading up here, but then let's take, say, the places that Obama won. Sanders is leading in all of those places. Or maybe we can make a comparison even further back. Let's see if there's any resemblance. Oh, was there just no Democratic primary? No, there was. They just left everything out. That's really weird. Okay, well, there's a lot of articles missing in Wikipedia. We'll continue our brief analysis. So I guess Klobuchar is sort of not really winning too many townships. I still find it quite impressive that Bloomberg was sort of just flexed on all the other candidates by winning Dishville. I mean, he's not even running in New Hampshire, and he just called every person in the town, talked to them just to flex on the other candidates, basically. I mean, it's actually pretty funny. He was able to, like, pull that off. The only write-in majority town is now Clarksville. Well, it appears that Steve Burke still leads in Litchfield. Oh my god. This guy is an absolute legend. Oh. Wow. Okay. Yeah, so Manchester, Keene, Concord, and Dover are holding up Sanders' lead, while Buttigieg is mostly supported by Londonderry, Merrimack, Hudson, Windham, and I guess sort of these counties over here sprinkled around are doing something for him. Sanders leads in about 90 townships, Buttigieg in about 50. He is still favored to win. Klobuchar, her odds are sort of pretty unlikely. Like I said, not a surprise that Yang dropped out, because fundraising was drying up for him. He had to fire tons of staff. Not necessarily because they screwed up or anything. It was just, well, maybe it was partially that, but it's also because he just couldn't pay them anymore. He had simply ran out of money. And, I mean, it was sort of, it's weird because he was actually one of the best fundraising candidates. For someone, he posts a lot of fundraising surprises. You know, he sort of shocked the world a few times, or at least shocked the American political sphere. And now he's dropped out. But David Burke, or Steve Burke, has shocked me by winning this random precinct in the middle of New Hampshire. You know, this is probably where he lives, and he just convinced like everyone in the town to vote for him. And that's probably how he's doing, quote unquote, so well. Like, what? Let's see. Okay, he's at a third of a percentage point. Wow. I'm gonna see if I can find any additional data about the New Hampshire primary, just in case. Also need to revise this issue with my YouTube password, because someone has been logging into my account and commenting on my video. Okay, interesting. Okay, we're having spotty resolution, which means I'll have to check the software sometime. I think it's actually pretty dated, so that could be why. I might need new software, but OBS has thus far been somewhat reliable. And so I don't. It could be just my computer. Yang just gained a 10th of a percentage point. That's great. Okay. Yeah, Tulsi, for all her campaigning in New Hampshire, hasn't done so well. It's sort of worse for Deval Patrick, though, because he's a former governor, and he's the first African-American governor of Massachusetts, and he's, like, completely irrelevant. Imagine it feels worse for, like, Cory Booker or Kamala Harris. Because, I mean, sure, Deval, Yang, Tulsi, they're all doing badly, and they had bet on New Hampshire to do well. Same with Michael Bennett. At least they're not being beaten by Steve Burke or Robbie Wells, who's also like a nobody. Or I'd say, yeah. More precincts coming in on the Republican side. No changes. No changes. None at all. Oh, Klobuchar leads from Harrisville, wherever that is. Oh, found it. Cool. It's interesting, actually, because Klobuchar has not seen any township gains in a fathomable amount of time. I'm going to shut off the live stream in about 5 minutes, I believe. I guess we're not going to have a projection tonight. You can follow on the mainstream news networks for live analysis. Yeah, these are the polls. I think we're going to end the live stream now. So, thank you all for watching. All 6 of you, and I have to guess close these tabs individually. We do not have a projection yet. It is still too close to call. We will probably do coverage on Super Tuesday, assuming that I'm not doing something then. Alright, so thank you all, and good night.